Well, a first-class performance from the Rabbitohs has secured them the Charity Shield for the sixth straight year in a row, as the Broncos crashed out in the Alex Glenn testimonial match, and the Tigers run hot over an understrength Manly side. Yes, hello and welcome to the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I am Connor Marcellus, and today we bring you the NRL trial wrap-up for 2021.
Football is definitely back, ladies and gentlemen, and it's so good.
Oh, yes, I honestly enjoyed last weekend. I mean, trials don't count for nothing, but they're a good indication of where a side's at heading into the season, which is only a week tomorrow away.
Yes, it sure is. It's getting very, very exciting. Trials, like you said, it doesn't really matter, but it's good to try and see early combinations or who's going to be maybe have the better form going into round one.
Oh, definitely. And starting off, we've got the Canberra Raiders and the Sydney Roosters, which turned out to be a Roosters 26-20 victory, but that was not what you would expect.
Well, no, not really. It was a good game. It was really, you could say tit for tat in some times of the game. It was really good. Nice and close, which is what we like to see. New players coming through for both clubs. It was good to see.
I honestly think with Ryan James, who played in the New South Wales Cup trial before that with the Bears, it's nice to see him not go down with an ACL injury for once. Just to actually get through a game without doing his ACL.
Yeah, it's really good. It must really be good for him to be back into playing rugby league again without getting injury.
It's sort of interesting how the Roosters scored their first try. You'd honestly swear someone was taking tips from Cooper Cronk, even though he's been out of the game for now 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel Tupou, with a left foot kick, even though he's a right footer, kicked it through, and Tupanua scored.
That was an unbelievable try. I'm just thinking, oh, surely not. But then again, we should remember they have scored tries like this before, so it's not out of them to... I wouldn't put it past them to score it, but at the same time for Canberra, this is the first time they've had Josh Hodgson back in close to a year.
Yes, it was. And he played like he only been out for a week. He played that good, and that just proves that he is one of the key players. Yes, the Raiders can still play well without him, but with him having there just that little bit, that bit better, and like I said...
Would you say he's now the number one hooker in the game with Cameron Smith gone?
It's a big statement, that, but it could possibly work out for him. We just had to wait and see after the first few weeks to see if that statement is definitely correct.
I feel between the Raiders and the Roosters now, it's just whenever they now meet, you can expect something of a good game. I mean, and the Raiders, they were playing up front and forward off the ball early, off that forward pack momentum they were generating, and then Hodgson scheming around the ruck. Canberra took control early with Hudson Young and Joe Tarpany. Those tries both being scored off forward momentum than they were generating.
Yeah, they clearly had a better momentum in the first half of the game. Oh, well, not first half even. The first period of the game, you could kind of say. But even throughout the whole game, they were playing well. So it was just a matter of who could crack the defence line to get through, really, in the end.
I think defence, it played two halves for the Raiders. In the first half, it played well when Jack Whiten could just cut through the Roosters' defence like a hot knife through butter. But then when the Roosters started shifting the ball around in the second half and trying to drag that Raiders' defence, which we know is amongst the best in the game, out of like from one side of the field to the other, when I think Sam Walker scored off Angus Crichton.
Yes.
That's when it sort of went a little bit awry. And then the two tries the Roosters scored off kicks. I think the Tupanua try first up, and then there was that second try in the second half as well.
Was it? I don't know. It wasn't the...
I think it might have been actually Angus Crichton that might have scored off that second one, but we can always double back on that.
Yes, we definitely can. That's the one thing the Rays will have to worry about, like maybe focus on in the next few training sessions for round one, is that defense little, like, as you know, as we saw, the Roosters just broke through that little bit too easily in some, like you said. So maybe they need to just work on that a little bit within the training
I
sessions.
think goal line defense will probably play a part because they'll need to try and diffuse their kicks a bit better, so the Roosters don't pull them apart with try. But Josh Hodgson, I think, definitely stood out in his first hit out in a long while. 2 line breaks, made 13 tackles in defence, and 2 try assists.
Yeah, like I said, felt like he hadn't even been out for like as long as he was. He just came back, played his game, no injury concerns, and let's hope he stays fit and healthy for the entire season for the Raiders and charge them to maybe another grand final.
Yeah, and speaking of contenders, Angus Crichton, all the talk about him, whether he stays at the Roosters or not, but he definitely plays like he wants a new contract.
I'd definitely say I'd hope he stays at the Roosters. The Roosters probably wouldn't want to let him go, especially if Boyd Cordner does retire, whether it's medically or on his own terms at the end of the season. If he does, they've got a player ready to rock and roll right there.
Yeah, but I think with Crichton and Tupanua in the second row, I think a lot of people should be concerned with this, especially after Crichton's performance he put in over the weekend.
Yes, definitely Crichton. It's probably one of his best games he's ever played. Not the best, but probably one of
a good warm up.
Yes, a very good warm up for what he may be able to produce this upcoming season.
Yeah. Moving on, we now move to Albury, right on the border with Victoria, as the Melbourne Storm play their first trial match without Cameron Smith.
Yes, and it looked like that his existence within that team, you could say, it was missed because of errors that they made, which they wouldn't normally. But they played like he was still there. So it's kind of a bit 50-50 for them.
Well, I definitely think defence played a good, strong role for them because it took Newcastle almost an hour to put on 1 try, and Melbourne had already put 4 tries on in the first half, sort of flexing their muscle early while still backing in their defence.
Typical Storm fashion, though.
Yeah. Sort of an interesting thing with this, Ryan Pappenhausen, because I think you and I both assumed Cameron Munster would take the goal-kicking duties up with Smith gone, but it turns out not even Munster's in the second string. It was Ryan Pappenhausen first up, slotting 3 from 3 goals, and then Nico Hines took over in the second half.
Yes. Well, now we know he's going to be the goal kicker. He's a pretty sharp shooter. Melbourne got all their conversions between Pappenhausen and Nico Hines, so there's definitely a lot of points in Pappenhausen this year.
And I think there's also the impressive try scored by Dean Iramia as well. He's now, because of that performance he put in, he's now been promoted into the top 30 for Melbourne.
And will he take Vuli Anu's spot on the wing?
I think Remus Smith will shift out to the right wing, considering Brenko Lee was missing with injury. So I would expect a Lee-Remus Smith right side combination with Kafusi and Jerome Hughes come round 1.
Yeah, that could be possibly it, but because Remus Smith played well too in the first time in his Storm colours, but what was his name?
Dean Iramia.
Dean Iramia, yeah. He played exceptionally well. He will be a one to watch in the future for Melbourne.
I also looked at Ryan Pappenhausen, just like every time he got close to the ball, I felt like he's going to dummy and then he's going to put the foot down and it's just going to be like, what the hell just happened?
Pretty much. That's what you expect from Pappenhausen, though. Like, I thought whenever he got the ball, he was going to break through the line and score every time. That did happen on a couple of occasions. He also did a very good short dropout. You could tell he was going to do a short dropout from how he angled it, how he was standing to angle it, but unfortunately it didn't pay off and Newcastle got the ball.
What is with the deal with the short goal line dropout? I felt like this was sort of like a 2017 Bulldogs ploy that has just managed to stick around for 4 years. Just like, why the short dropouts?
Probably maybe practicing it early in the trial match so they can execute it in a close match or something
surely
like that.
Teams know that it's a 1 in 10 chance they're going to pull it off.
Well, it's magnificent when it pulls off. In this case, it didn't work, so...
Eventually, Newcastle did get on the board after being able to break down the Storm defence. Braden Musgrove going over first, and then right on full time, the outstanding British import, Dominic Young.
Yes, mate, we knew he was going to be scoring tries this year, and he's already started it off well. So whether or not he squeezes into the first grade
From
side,
Cessnock to Albury, he's backed it up with tries in both appearances.
yeah, so it's looking good for him. But I don't think he'll make the squad for a few weeks yet.
Well, I think there's a lot of decisions Adam O'Brien has taken. Of course, he's appointed his captains in Daniel Safiti and Jaden Brayley to take the co-captaincy out of that five-man leadership group, and I think Tuala will still get the start in the centres for the time being, but I could easily see the frame of Dominic Young. He could force his way into the side.
Yes,
Literally.
force his way into his side. Yeah, another player that played reasonable was Cooper Johns. He had a good pass to Chris Lewis who went over. Yeah, so there's a few young ones coming through that watch out for the Knights in the future.
Well, the bad news for Melbourne is Harry Grant has gone down with injury, and he set up that interesting try for Big Nelson to score, which is probably the last person you want charging through on a grubber kick, but still, he came through and scored it perfectly.
Definitely, perfectly. Harry Grant, that's not how you want to start the season, but before he got injured, he did play really well. It's like he carried his momentum and form coming from the Tigers back to Melbourne. It looked like
He never left.
no, pretty much. Who gets the starting spot?
It's the King Cheese himself. He starts now.
Well, yes, but when Harry Grant's fit and healthy, then what are you gonna do?
Well, then Brandon Smith returns to the bench. Harry Grant starts, unless, of course, Bellamy sees fit. If Smith shows good form over the first 3 rounds, heading into the Good Friday clash against the Broncos, he might think, you know what, I want to ease Harry in slightly, just so he can get some match fitness back up again. I'll have Brandon start, and then after that Good Friday clash, it'll be back to how I want it.
I'd say that's what he'll probably do, knowing Craig Bellamy. He knows how to treat injuries and that really well, so I'd say that will be right. He'll ease Harry Grant back in.
Yes, indeed. All right, now from one side of the border to the other side of the border, we now head to Lismore to review the Gold Coast Titans and the New Zealand Warriors.
Yes, that was a tit-for-tat game. Both teams played well. Are we going to expect more from them throughout the season? Yes. Are we going to see Paul closest? If they play in the regular season, are we going to see a good game as what we saw in the weekend? Possibly, depending on the form that both teams are in at the time. No, but they both played really well.
I think the Titans had the upper hand early, especially the power game for the middle. I think AJ jumped in the dummy half, and then the moment you get Big Tino the ball, that 40-metre effort to score the opening try of the match, that was just, well, what a good way to start your career in Titans colours, eh?
Definitely. There was a lot of strength too. When he got near the goal line, he just powered over the defence, and a little bit of speed too helped him as well, which is good.
And then they backed it up with a second effort, Jamal Fogarty's kick, and then Anthony Don coming down with the ball to set up Jared Wallace.
Yes, that was a beautifully executed kick, well kicked by Fogarty, and well played by Anthony Don, and to send Wallace over. That was a good setup for that whole try. And it was the last try for the Gold Coast too, as it turns out to be.
And then the Warriors were able to respond in kind. First, Josh Curran pulling the left edge of the Titans out of position to send Josh Curran over, just to hit and spin and out on the left edge. And then a little bit of magic from RTS to Avasa Sheck, just to break through the line, set Nikorima up, or so you think to set Nikorima up. And then he just gives the pass to Jazz Tavanga backing up.
And yeah, it's good backup. Not backup, but it's good that players are there to back up to support the player that's got the ball to situations like this where you can pass it to a few players and score. So it's good teamwork.
I think if we're locked at a 12-ball deadlock, you think, who's going to step up here? Because that's sort of the main thing. I've had Nikorima, who could step up and take charge of this, or you could have had Ash Taylor and Jamal Fogarty.
Yeah, I personally feel Ash Taylor a bit of a quiet trial. Fogarty, I feel, took a lot of the
Responsibility.
responsibility, which is probably not a bad thing. It's probably more of a good thing.
Sort of like the White and Williams relationship, but
Yeah.
Jack can do a lot more running as well.
Yes, I say that's what they might be up at the Gold Coast, but Ash Taylor probably might come back in and maybe take a bit more responsibility in round one.
They definitely had a couple of attempts, the Titans, with Patrick Herbert trying to break through, but either knock-ons or the ball was forced dead and the Titans just weren't able to break through.
No, they definitely weren't. With Patrick Herbert, it was unfortunate that I think he dropped the ball as he went to score. That was unfortunate, but it's good signs for the Titans and good signs for the Warriors too. Heading into the season, they'll be full of confidence and yeah.
Well, to leave Lismore with a draw, it's not a win, but at the same time, you could say they didn't lose, and there was definitely some things to take away.
Yes.
One downside for the Warriors, though, they did have Wade Egan go down with injury, but on the good news, it's not very serious, and he might only miss the opening round of the season.
Yes, it's a negative for the Warriors, but also a positive as well. It's negative because he got injured, but positive he could be only out for like 1 to 2 weeks.
Well, I think the plan for Nathan Brown, I think the only plan he can do at this point, Jazz Tavanga goes in the dummy half, Ben Murdoch-Masila comes in at lock forward, and then I think Bailey Sirenen might be included as like a bench utility.
That would sound about right. At least there's some sort of depth there because they can't really play Carl Lawton because he's out injured.
For the whole year.
So they're a bit short in the hooker stocks, but they can work around it, which is good.
All right, now coming up from Cogra, the Sharks and the Bulldogs clash.
Wait, I thought the Dogs were going to get absolutely demolished by the Sharks after the start the Sharks had, but Dogs somehow came back and won, as they normally do. Start off not poorly, but they leak a few tries and then they come back through near the end and win.
Well, I definitely think the case. Our right edge, because it was more of a newer right edge with Corey Waddell taking over Jackson's edge spot, and then you had Kyle Flanagan and Hopewadi and Wateni Zalesniak all playing together for the first time. So I think the Sharks knew exactly where to go early, and Matt Moylan setting up Kennedy for Mulatalo, that left edge of the Sharks flexed its muscle very early on.
Yes, they definitely did. Then that's a combination to watch out for if it sticks like that for the whole season. Moylan, Kennedy to Mulatalo. Watch for them three players form a great combination after the season.
It was definitely just poor defensive reads on the Dogs' part, and they almost got over early with Wateni Zalesniak until he had his foot in the touch.
Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate for them, but you learn from your mistakes. He didn't really have much choice to step back inside either, so it was just risk. He took the risk for the chocolate biscuit.
Well, fortunately, his second attempt at the try line definitely went a lot better. Yes. And again, Matt Moylan, they definitely played on him because he shot out of the line, I think, trying to go at Flanagan. And then, of course, the 3-on-2 overlap, Wade Graham trying to come across as fast as he can. Yeah. Then he went Allen to Hopewadi, and then Wateni Zalesniak goes over. So
even Corey Allen had a good game in his first time in Dogs colours. So, like Allen and Wateni Zalesniak, that combination, and Hopewadi, that could be another good combination. That will be good.
It's sort of interesting with Hopewadi because over the last 3 years, he's chopped and changed from being a centre and a fullback whenever it's been required on him to play either one of those two positions. I think the argument could be made he's a much better centre than he is a fullback.
Yeah, they'll probably be training him at centre a lot more than that fullback, so if he's required to play fullback, he can. So they've got depth there.
Another problem for the Sharks they have to worry about is their defense around the middle of the ruck because, first of all, they had Adam Elliott come back on an angle with Wakeham and he just crashed over right underneath the sticks. And then you had this junior Dogs dummy half in Bradley Dietz. He just jumped from dummy half and he went over.
Yeah. They'll fix that up in the training sessions this week more than likely and go through the final runs. Deets, he's a good young player coming. Is he from your young system?
I think from the Mounties system, but because the Mounties are aligned with Canterbury, I would imagine you could say yes, he's from our junior system.
So he's a one to watch too. Whether or not he plays first grade this year, it's a wait and see. But he's another one to watch for the Dogs.
I think he'll just need to get his weight to the kicks right, because he jumped out of dummy half again and he put another kick in, looking for I don't know if it was a goal line dropout or if he was looking for a try assist, but he might just need to get his weight of the kicks right. But if he can definitely play eyes up football and just jump from dummy half to try and catch defenses backpedaling,
yeah,
could get interesting.
It could, and even if he doesn't play this season, there's next season as well. For he's a good strong Dogs lineup. The Dogs are from the trial match. They are looking. I personally feel like they're looking a lot better than what they did in 2020. So watch out for the Dogs this season, everyone.
They could still prove a lot of top 8 sides to be a pain at the back end,
like they have done in the past.
Now we move on. We've got the Charity Shield between the St George Illawarra Dragons and the South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Yeah, when I saw that scoreline, I thought there's going to be a lot of pain for us Dragons fans this season, I feel. Yes, I know I'm a Dragons fan, as we all know, but I'm already feeling the pain, and I reckon it's going to get a lot worse for us this season. So
32-4 at half time, and the Rabbitohs were running in tries for fun.
Well, Cody Walker with a hat trick in the first half. Come on.
Well, you can't go past either Latrell Mitchell either, because what I've noticed with the Rabbitohs when they attack, we know that when Reynolds goes, he either has Walker or Mitchell come swing late. But you want to know what else I noticed?
What's that?
The centers. How they disguise it. They get the centers to run a decoy line. With one instance when they set up Cody Walker or Alex Johnston, I think. They had Dane Gagai run a decoy line when Reynolds was going. He ran the decoy. Mitchell swings by on the outside of Gagai, and then I think it was either Walker or Johnston that swung on that short overlap they created down the left-hand side. And you notice with the Jackson Paulo try, it was practically the same. And I think Cody Walker's first try also, it was the same logic.
Yeah.
Reynolds swings over to the right. Campbell Graham runs a decoy line. Mitchell swings back from the inside on the outside of there, then gets the 2-on-1. Paulo goes over, and then offload back on the inside. Cody Walker scores.
Yeah. That's going to be a dangerous combination this year between Reynolds, Walker, and Mitchell. Latrell Mitchell, he played really good at fullback.
73 running meters, 1 try, and 3 try assists.
Yeah, that's good confidence heading into round 1 for Latrell after the
hamstring injury.
After hamstring injury and coming back off the NRL All-Stars match, he played good there too. So it's just momentum going into the season for him. Hopefully it carries on, and the Bunnies will be a danger force for the team.
There was a bit of confidence about the Dragons, however. I think in their left edge with Jack Bird, because he did help set up Jordan Pereira by sucking in the right edge defensively to send Jordan Pereira over for the first try. And then, of course, Matt Duffy had a busy night at fullback, 3 tackle breaks, setting up a try for Cody Ramsey, was it?
I think so.
And also 207 running meters. So definitely a busy night for him at fullback.
Yes, definitely. He even setting up that try for Ramsey. 2 speedsters, 1 speedster to another. So that will be something to watch. If they play, well, I know Duffy more than likely be playing for the bulk of the season, but Ramsey we don't know yet. But it's good to see.
Contractual wise, it's interesting because Ramsey's secured for another 3 years and Duffy's off contract at the end of this year. So if they let Duffy go, it wouldn't really be a loss because they still got Cody Ramsey that could slide in at fullback.
Yeah, I've heard that if Duffy does leave, Ramsey will be going into fullback. What was I going to say there? Jack Bird. When he first signed us, I was like, that's a bit of a bad signing, but he's starting to prove me wrong a little bit. He had a good game. He played the full 80 minutes, did he?
No, he only played the first 51 minutes, and then he went off for a rest as he was subbed off. But
he had a really good first 51 minutes, so he could he's probably all but nailed down that starting spot that was left vacant by Ewan Aitken. We don't know if he's going to get the final spot in that centre spot or one of the Feagai twins. So we had to wait and see on Tuesday next week when the lineups will be released. But yeah, I reckon he'll be in the starting side, Jack Bird.
Michael Ennis made the comparison that Jack Bird is to the Dragons is what John Bateman was to the Raiders. Do you think that is a fair analogy to compare the talents of Bird and John Bateman together?
Well, is this when Jack Bird was good before he got that whole run of injuries?
I think we'd have to consider Jack Bird and his... I think based on that form and what Bird is capable
of. I don't really... It is a good comparison, but whether or not it's too early to make that call at the moment. Yes, Jack Bird played... He was in top form before he had the horror run of injuries. But from the base... From the form he had in trial match on the Charity Shield, he was good. So I had to wait and see if what Michael Ennis said is a definite good statement or not.
Now, the prelude to the Battle of the West, the Panthers and the Eels. This one sort of started off as a struggle early on, with forward passes and strong defensive reads playing a huge part not only to the Panthers, but also to the Eels' attack.
Yeah, they were both a bit scrappy in the first little part of the game. That's probably, I don't know what that came down to, but the Panthers end up prevailing by 10 points in the end. But it didn't go all their way. It wasn't... No one really dominated the game, I don't feel like. There was periods there some teams did, but for the bulk of the game, there was a bit on and off between each team of who dominated the most.
I think it was sort of Parramatta trying to feel their way around, because the one interesting thing was they swapped their edge attack around. They had Brown and Sean Lane, or I should say Dylan Brown and Sean Lane on the right edge, and then Mitchell Moses and Ryan Madison were playing on the left side, with centers and wingers maintaining where they are. I think I was reading some comments from Brad Arthur saying that Moses and Dylan felt comfortable playing on opposite sides of the field. I mean, Moses was an X5'8" of the Tigers, so being back on the left side might make him feel more comfortable. And then Brown, I don't know. I think this was more of the trying to address the criticism, not just of the attack at certain stages, but their defensive right edge, because in this finals, Melbourne and the Rabbitohs definitely tore that right edge apart, with Walker Blake and Blake Ferguson, as well as Madison and Moses.
Yes. Maybe it could... Maybe off season they've had a bit more practice together. Well, with Moses getting injured last year too, probably did not help. But now he's back full with hope this season. That could be the side that they were struggling with last season. Hopefully, he's fixed for this upcoming season.
I think we also have to factor in the rule changes were also brought in for these trials as well. So. It's 6 again for 10 metres offside. There are no scrums when the ball goes into touch. And there's a changeover for incorrect play the balls as well. So I think if you're gassed like that with all these rule changes, I think, well, who knows how they work out. But it could definitely play a role in not really trying to get your attack in order.
Well, the defending team, or the team that's not on the attack, they could pick out the tired... Like, players will get tired quicker now with the new rules. The game is getting a lot quicker yet again, as we know how quick it went last year. It's going to go quicker again this year with the new rules. You're going to see more fatigue, but how the coaches play the interchanges due to the new rules and how quick the game's going will be interesting to see, because you could see more fatigued players out in the field creating more errors, which could lead to more closer games or more blowout games depending on how strong your side is. So it's going to be interesting to see how these new rules take effect. Yeah, it'll be... It was just a wait and see game for that one.
One confident thing for the Eels out of that trial match was I think they definitely were able to capitalize on opportunities. When Dylan Edwards made that mistake with 15 minutes to go, Tom Opacek was in the right place at the right time, chasing through on the kick, and then picking up on the mistake made by Edwards, which he has been known to do at the back,
Yes.
and then score the Eels' only try. And at 12-6, that trial match could have gone either way if Parramatta were able to pull off another try, but I think the work from Cleary, Luai, and Api Coruscant in the first half cemented their 6-point lead, and then when they went over late, it sort of was like, yep, Penrith have got their defence in order, and their attack seems to be humming nicely with Kickow breaking open the line every other time.
I was going to say Kikau. You can't forget Kikau. He broke the line a few times. When he was in the open, he seemed to be. I personally feel probably a bit quicker on his feet. He's got a bit more speed on him, but it could be just me because it's been a while since we've seen him play. But yeah, Cleary, Kikau, Coruscant, and Luai. I'd say they'll be the standout players again for Penrith this year.
I definitely think a good confidence booster ahead of facing the Cowboys next Saturday night.
Well, if them four are in right, and like I said, confidence booster coming to the Cowboys, well, who knows? They could absolutely tear up the Cowboys.
And speaking of the Cowboys, they actually came away with a win in the Alex Glenn testimonial match at the Moreton Daily Stadium in Redcliffe.
Well, yes. So, the game that the Cowboys played will make their first game against Penrith close, depending on how they go. But it's only a trial, so you can't read into it too much. That's what people seem to read
Most of the time, because we read into this, and this is practically the Broncos of 2020 on this right here. They jump out to an 18-6 lead. Arco setting up Tessie New for the first try, and then getting involved again to help David Mead go over.
Yeah.
And then who got on with the third try with the Broncos?
For the Broncos, Jake Turpin.
Yeah, is that him jumping from dummy half?
No, Croft passed to Turpin, who got through the defence to make it an 18-6 lead. So
after Scott Drinkwater went over for the Cowboys.
Yes.
Cowboys, yeah. It was tight, but I think the Broncos were sort of running out of steam by the time North Queensland had found their feet. And then you had Dunn, you had, I think, Cohen Hess, Valentine Holmes, and of course, Hemiso Tabuai Fido, the rugby league hammer, just drop, and they ended up running over the top of the Broncos as by the end of it, coming away 34-18 winners.
Yes. If you didn't mention, Mitch Dunn scored, and Kyle Felt's try, he did not have much room at all to score, but he somehow did it. So that proves that tight room can lead into tries. I reckon Michael Morgan had a better game than what he had throughout 2020. Is that a sign of things to come? We don't know.
Well, it sort of raises the question, because there's a lot of questions over the Cowboys' spine at the moment. You had Drinkwater start at fullback, and then Morgan and Clifford were in the halves. But there weren't Valentine Holmes at fullback at some stage. So then what do you do with Drinkwater, and what do you do with Clifford?
Well, Drinkwater has to be in the team somewhere, I feel. Clifford, yeah, he's been in and out a lot, so it's a tough one, but Todd Payton will have it sorted come on Tuesday for the squad announcements.
How would you rate Hamiso Tabuai Fido? Getting back to him, how would you rate his second hit out in the centres this preseason?
I reckon he's a better winner than a centre. But he's shown that he can play in centres as well if he needs to. So wherever you put him, he'll be as good as he can be. But I just feel like he's a bit better of a winner than more of a centre, I personally feel. What about yourself?
I would utilise his raw speed out on the wing, and I'd have Justin O'Neill or even Corneli Lumelu or even Isan Masters had a bit of a good stint.
Yes,
when he was on the field, and I think a lot of people have been critical of Masters because he sort of dove off after he left the Tigers.
Well, Masters went over for for a try for the Cowboys, so that would only help him try and cement a starting spot come round one.
And final trial match, the West Tigers and the Manly Sea Eagles.
Well, if you're a Tigers fan, do not go onto the NRL website to try and find grand final tickets because I don't know. There's a meme going around at the moment of all the Tigers fans googling NRL tickets for this season because after that bit of a blowout score of 52-18 of the Tigers, but I think them Tigers fans read into it a bit too much. But as we all know, that could quickly go downhill or it could go uphill. Who knows?
Well, the Tigers were certainly going uphill on the scoreboard with this.
Mate, Dane Laurie, who's a new recruit,
only just recently signed with the Tigers after the swap deal with Paul Momirovski and Penrith.
He'll be pushing to make a start. Adam Dooley had another blinder of a game. Well, not a blinder, but he had another good game. There was a lot of Tigers players that played really well. There was a nice combination that I saw that sent Talau over. It was from Brooks to Luciano Leilua to Dane Laurie to Talau who scores. So if that sticks.
Looking at Luciano Leilua early, he was sort of the danger man on the Tigers' left edge. Like he provided that offload that sent Dane Laurie over for his second try, and then he was running as a distraction while they set up Asu Kepaoa over on the left side. So he's definitely a threat for the Tigers, and to see his evolution since he left St. George Illawarra has been marvellous to watch.
Oh, definitely about that. It feels like, well, it doesn't feel like, it looks like he's gone to another level since he's left the Dragons, and even after his first year at Tigers, it looks like he's got another level led again for this upcoming season. So he'll probably want to be one of the danger men for the Tigers this upcoming season.
Well, speaking of danger men, we only have to look at James Roberts as a danger man on the same edge as David Norfoluma.
That will be a good one. That side of the Tigers of Roberts and Norfoluma, they'll be trying to better each other to see who can get the more tries out of each other. But Robert, he had a good game for the Tigers. It's good to see him with confidence again and back.
Just happy in general, because I think there was a headline in the Herald where he said he just wanted to live a normal life again.
Yeah, almost
retiring at the end of last year.
Yes, imagine if he retired at the end of last year, how much the game would have missed him. But
Jimmy the Jet, he's sort of one of the fastest men in the game.
Yes.
If he can still hold that title up against the likes of the Fox and Ryan Pappenhausen.
Well, yeah, that could be the fastest 3-year-old this year. We don't know. Luke Brooks, for me, he had a pretty good game after a bit of a on and off 2020. Let's hope he continues that because I feel, needs to step up a lot this year to try and. Yes, he's got a couple of years left on his contract, but as you know,
contracts don't count for nothing.
Yeah, so he really needs to step up and take more of a responsibility in the halves and show that little bit more leadership because he's now one of the most experienced players in that Tigers side now.
Well, him and James Tarmo, don't forget, the captain coming across from Penrith. So not only...
Hence why I said one of the most experienced.
Well, one half that definitely stood out, and it came from the losing side, and that was Josh Schuster.
Yes. Where do you put him in the 17? I'd have him on 17, but where, I don't know. But I wouldn't have Kieran Foran out. I wouldn't have Kieran Foran playing at dummy half and Schuster alongside Cherry Evans. I'd maybe have Schuster coming off the bench and play Foran for like the bulk of the game and play Foran for 60 minutes and then have Schuster come off in the last 22 spark Manly at the back end of the game to try and definitely concrete a win.
I'd actually have Schuster out on an edge. I think he can play in the middle of the field, so I think it'd make more sense that he and Jack Gajeski swap places is from time to time. Like, 4 and on, and then of course you got for a bodyguard, just in case its opposition back rowers and front rowers try and run at him and his shoulder. So sort of like you got that extra protection there of a big body like Schuster, who's also got that kicking game like Wade Graham. But 140-20, 2 try assists. I believe one of those was for Ben Trebojevic as well. A lot of talk about the third turbo in the Manly side at the moment.
Yes. Do we play Ben Trebojevic this season to have the 3 Trebojevic brothers out on the same field at the same time?
Well, there's a lot of questions around Tom Trebojevic at the moment and who goes in at fullback, and then there's all the talk Ben might actually get a start, whether that's in the centres, at fullback, on the wing, or in the second row somewhere.
Well, who knows? But he's obviously got speed like his brother Tom. Like Jake's got speed on him too, don't get me wrong.
But Benny's got more of a frame around it that he can use to play on an edge, throw an offload. Maybe not palm like kick out, but...
Yeah. Well, who knows? Because Jake Trebojevic did not play in that trial match. He could have a palm like kick out. That could be what he worked on in the off-season.
One thing you'll need to work on is getting steamrolled by players of a similar or even bigger body size, because Adam Dewey ran over the top of him to score.
Dewey. Do you put him at halfback or not halfback, in a half?
You put him at 5'8" with Laurie at fullback.
Well, you kind of have to now after the performance of what Laurie did and what Dewey did. You kind of have to put them in the 17. Mbai, where do you put him?
I think Moses Mbai is quickly running out of time. He's not a fullback. He's not a centre. He's not a halfback. He might be lucky as a dummy half off the bench, but other than that...
Because you got Jacob Little off the bench too.
And Jake Simpkin, promoted from the top 30 into the Tigers system, so...
Who also went over for a try as well, so... Yeah, there's a bit of a selection headache there for Michael Maguire. But Ambai really needs to pick up, well, he kind of really has to pick up his game if he wants to nail down a starting 17 spot. But with Laurie, Dewey, and Simpkin and Little all playing really good football at the moment, it's going to be hard for him to be in the starting 17.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Tigers come out next Sunday as they travel to the nation's capital to face the Canberra Raiders.
That will, I know it's only a trial and I may be reading into it a little bit too much, but against the Raiders, yeah, that could go either way now, but I'd still reckon the Raiders will get the W.
Yeah, indeed. Now, the Betfred Super League. We haven't touched on them in a month's time, so we're going to bring them back up again because their full fixtures list has now come out for the 2021 season, due to start in 2 weeks after the NRL.
Yes. They had initially revealed their rounds 1, 2 and the Magic Weekend fixtures.
To be played on the weekend of the 4th and 5th of September.
Yes. And now they've released the remaining rounds. Whether or not it's going to be at the one stadium like rounds 1 and 2 are, and the Magic Weekend is yet to be determined. We'll have to wait and see on that, depending on the COVID vaccine over there and how things are travelling.
And also, for the clubs, we now can look at sort of like how their first 5 rounds shape up. Already looking at the champions of St Helens, we already knew they were facing Salford first up and facing Hull Kingston Rovers in round 2 in honour of Mossy Massoy, injured Hull KR captain, and who's only now just beginning to walk again.
Which is really good to see.
It's sort of interesting, this rounds 3 to 5 for Saints, because they face Wakefield Trinity at home, whether it's a neutral venue or at the Totally Wicked Stadium. Then they're on the road to face the Huddersfield Giants, who did beat them last year.
Yes, that would be a good game to watch, the Huddersfield Giants versus St Helens.
And then face the Lee Centurions.
Yeah.
With the firepower that Saints possess, and the fact that Lee have had to rush a side together in practically a couple of months, and it's just with all the promotion talk and the financing, yeah, I'm thinking Saints should walk away with 4, maybe 5 wins at the most, I would think. I see them going on a bit of a run in Christian Wolf's second season, and then if we look at the runners-up in the Wigan Warriors, first slated to start off against the Leigh Centurions and play Wakefield Trinity. Round 3, Leeds Rhinos. After the Challenge Cup semi-final where Wigan were utterly dominated by the Blue and Amber. Then round 4 against the Castleford Tigers. And then round 5 up against Hull FC.
I'm going back to St Helens there. I reckon they'll have at least 3 wins out of the first 5. The other 2 could go, well, maybe 4, but one could go either way.
I definitely think the first round match against Leigh, that will heavily go in the Warriors' favour, but against Hull, that might actually be a bit of a different story, and Castleford would be sort of a coin flip, I'd have to say, at this point in time.
Oh, I have to agree with you on that one. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out in the Super League with all the clubs at the one stadium in round 1, and then again at round 2, and rounds 3 to 5 we don't know. So,
well, the big test for the Warrington Wolves is because there's a lot of expectation around Warrington, and you know both our opinions. I think they'll just finish inside the top 6. You think they'll finish a bit more to the bottom of the ladder, but outside of facing Castleford and Leigh, next up, Warrington have to face Hull FC, who they have had a good run of form against. Catalan, which is a bit of an interesting one in of itself. They lost the Challenge Cup to the Dragons back in 2018. And then they have to play Hull Kingston Rovers. So, sort of a soft start for the Warrington Wolves. They don't really have to face one of the top 2 sides until... I don't know, I'm just scrolling down here, but they don't have to face a top 2 side, and that being the reigning champions, until round 10.
Yes. So they've got an easier start than some of the other 11 teams. But who knows what can happen? Maybe upsets are not more than likely could occur. So Warriors could lose a few games out of what they think the games that they go in as favourites might come out as not winners. So
yeah, so I think it would really have to depend on how some of the other sides are built up as well, because Richard Marshall's coming to Salford. Unfortunately, he doesn't have access to Joe Burgess. He's unfortunately had an injury at training and now could be facing, I think, somewhere between 1 and 3 months on the sideline, when it was widely anticipated he would get a starting berth for the Red Devils.
What sort of injury did he get?
Ankle mainly.
Ooh. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. Because we know what Joe Burgess can do. Hopefully, he could be back within in the 1 month time frame, not the 3 months. So,
and I think for the Leigh Centurions, if they wanted a good start, unfortunately they didn't get it.
Well,
of course, they already had to face Wigan first up in their first game back in 4 years, and then they have to play the Warrington Wolves at the Totally Wicked Stadium round 2, and then from there it doesn't get any better. Castleford in round 3, then they have to play Salford in round 4, and then it's round 5 against the reigning champion St Helens. So,
well,
it's looking at a 1 and 4 or a none and 5 at this rate.
I'd say 1 and 4. I'd say that if they were to win, I'd say they'd probably win against Salford in round 4 would be my guess. If they had to have a win in the first 5 rounds, other than that, they'll be 1 and 4.
Well, I think the only 3 teams that of interest, I mean, the latest team to come into the Super League and the 2020 top 3 sides, because we don't really want to bore everyone. We will post more about the other sides between 4th and 11th later on, because right now, I'm afraid, that is full time from us today. Join us next week for the round 1 previews. We have a look at the round 1 lineups and we give our final thoughts. And if you liked what you hear today, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the Sideline and Chat channel to never miss a new content update.
And also follow our show socials on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to see exclusive content.
All right. Along with Mark Henry, I am Con Marcellus, and this has been the Sideline Chat Podcast. Bye for now.
Bye.